And welcome to the Be Bold Hour. I'm James, I'm your host, and this is the Be Bold Hour. Today we have an exciting topic. We're going to be talking about narcissism and ways that we can navigate relationships with them. Before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. This is the Be Bold Hour. It is on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We had a glitch in our broadcast last night. We had to do it on Fridays, but the Be Bold Hour is Thursday Mountain Standard Time. So welcome to the Be Bold Hour. If you've ever had a relationship with a narcissist, ever wondered if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, ever wondered how to get out of a relationship with a narcissist, or maybe just wanted some tips and tricks for knowing, understanding, or seeing a relationship that you might think be involved with a narcissist, this is the episode for you. I'm super excited about this episode. And before we tear into this episode, I do want to just say this from kind of a loving and kind standpoint. We're gonna examine the narcissist cycle, the cycle of a narcissist. And at the deepest core of a narcissist's life is a lot of childhood trauma. It is written about extensively that narcissists are not born, they are made, and there are so many factors that can lead to this behavior cycle. And so we want to step back. We want to look at a narcissist cycle because we want to use self-evaluation for ourselves. We want to build boundaries. We want to know how to interact with people. And life is about interacting with others. And to be in the messiness of life, to be able to support somebody, to be able to love on somebody, and be able to do that from a position, a place where we can stay healthy is really important. Because we all have people in our lives that we need to love on, we need to care about. And I hope that this episode builds some of those foundational components for you to be able to do that. And so with that, we're going to tear into it. Narcissist. And probably the most complicated personality type you're going to run into is a narcissistic personality. Definitely the most challenging that you will probably ever encounter. And today we're going to dive into this complicated topic of narcissism and how it impacts our lives. So stay to the end, because beyond some of the needed technical guides, some of the technical components, I'm going to be giving you some of the tips and tricks from my own personal life that have helped me identify narcissists, engage with them, separate from them when needed, but also heal from them. And I want you to have some of these tools so that you can stay healthy, you can stay independent when dealing with this personality type. But also, like I said in the beginning, the more people that we can interact on, the more people we can care about, we can love on, the more joy-filled our lives are going to be. And that's really what this is about. So let's kick it off. Defining narcissism. So what exactly is narcissism? At its core, narcissism is a complex personality trait that's characterized by an excessive preoccupation with oneself. It's selfishness at its deepest root. It's an insatiable need for admiration, and we need to hold on to that for the remainder of the show. It's an insatiable admiration. It's a lack of genuine empathy for others. Narcissists are often exhibit a grandiose sense of self-importance and entitlement. And we're going to talk about that grandioseness. That is really a red flag, if you will, when it comes to evaluating a relationship or a person for these narcissistic tendencies that we can get sucked into, either on a small scale or on a large scale. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a lot of them on the large scale, but they do have small scale implications because those negatives come into our lives. So narcissists often exhibit this grandiose sense of self-importance, entitlement, and a tendency to exploit and manipulate those around them to fulfill their desires and maintain their self-image. So to be in a relationship with a narcissist, there you have it right off the get-go. It is about you helping them maintain their self-image. While we're not in the business of clinical diagnosis, I said that in the beginning, this podcast, this show is not intended to serve as a diagnosis in any way. We are, however, in the business of self-examination, and we want to be comfortable with self-examination because through it, we will find self-confidence, self-esteem, and with that, be able to build better relationships through a more authentic and genuine life. So let's keep going. Common examples. Okay, so we're going to tear into common examples. If you're showing up in the show or you're watching the show later, not live, put comments in the chat at different points that spoke out to you, and I'll definitely see your comment and I'll definitely reply. To bring this concept to life, let's explore some examples of narcissistic behavior that you might have encountered or heard about. Maybe it's number one, a self-centered friend. We all know that one friend who constantly dominates conversations, turning every topic back to themselves. They rarely inquire about your well-being and dismiss your problems as less important than their own. That's one. And these are quick four. There's lots of different ways this plays out. Number two, that charismatic boss. The charismatic and successful leader can often be a narcissist in the workplace. They can take credit for your hard work. They rarely acknowledge your achievements, and they prioritize their glory above the team's success. Third place, we can see it as a manipulative partner. A narcissistic partner can be emotionally draining in a romantic relationship. They might use guilt, manipulation, or emotional abuse to maintain control and keep you focused on meeting their needs. Fourth place, we see this, and this is really epidemic. This has to be an episode down the road because it's kind of poking fun at what I'm doing right now. But the social media influencer. In the age of social media, we have to talk about this. Narcissism can take place in the digital form. Some individuals, they obsess over curating their online personas, seeking validation, admiration through likes, shares, comments, while showcasing a carefully constructed image that may not reflect reality. And that is, the word reality is going to be a running theme to this. The narcissist personality wants to avoid reality. And these are just a few examples, like I said, but narcissistic traits can manifest in various ways and across different relationships and at varying levels. Again, it's built off a selfishness to cover up our own self-hurt. And we're going to talk about that in more detail. Understanding these behaviors and navigating them is essential for maintaining our emotional well-being and fostering healthy relationships. So through our session today, we're going to dive deeper into narcissism, explore strategies to recognize, deal with selfish individuals, and equip ourselves with the tools necessary to maintain our boundaries and emotional health. So let's begin. Exploration of the narcissist, the empowerment, and the journey we have to healthier interactions and relationships. Segment 1, Understanding Narcissism. There's a book reference here. It's called Narcissist You Know by Joseph Burgo. If you want to know more about Segment 1, look that book up. The quote from that book that I love is, "Narcissists are often charming and charismatic, but can be incredibly self-centered. Traits of narcissism: they have a grandiose belief in one's superiority or uniqueness." So this is where we see that grandiose come back in. They have to be superior and they have to be unique. There's things about them that are just off the charts different than everyone else. And it goes to later on their manipulation in your helping them. They have a complete lack of empathy, the inability to genuinely understand or care about others' feelings. They will only use those situations to turn themselves into a hero. Manipulativeness, using others to gain validation. And they also have a very fragile self-esteem. If you poke at that self-esteem, they are surprisingly fragile, very low self-image beneath all the bravado. They are very breakable. And that is when you poke at that or you stumble into that on accident, or if you're just in a relationship that's long occurring, you can't help but bump into that, like marriage. It can be very violent. When it comes to narcissists, it helps us to identify behavior traits. All right, so this is the Jamesism and all this. I'm really excited for you to hear this. Hope you keep on to this one. I call this one the storyteller. They always have a story after story. And here are the 3 rules with the narcissist and the story. Are you ready for this? 1, everybody they know has a slightly different version. That keeps them in control. Think about that. Everybody has a slightly different version. Everyone's missing a little bit different details, and everybody gets a little different slant. Number 2, the story constantly circles to an impossible end of, what else could I do? Right? Well, what was I supposed to do? There was nothing. Can you believe that? There was nothing for me to do. How do you even handle that? A justifiable means to their behavior or point of view. And number 3, only they either have all the details and facts, like if you push for facts, I'm going to give you an example of that, push for facts, or they are the only ones that can understand the facts. So either they only have the details or they can only understand. They'll say, oh, well, you wouldn't understand because you don't know this other stuff and I can't share that. The hero will pop in here and they'll act like the savior trying to protect other people. But what they're really doing is they're serving to protect the details from exposure. So moving back just a little bit, in that story, what they'll do is if you ask for details, they'll create another story. And then if you ask for some more details, they create a little bit more story, and then a little bit more story and more details. they will never let you get to details. They will always be a little bit foggy, but they won't be like drilled down black and white specific. So if you're really pushing on a narcissist, or you're pushing on somebody that has these tendencies, it might not be a full-blown narcissist, but they might have some of these tendencies. Again, these are selfish behaviors that can play out in all of us at any given time. So somebody that's wanting to hide those things is probably hiding some bad behavior, a bad attitude behind it, because they just really don't want to deal with the facts. They want to skip the facts. All right, segment 2, understanding narcissism. Now this segment 2 is referencing the book Disarming the Narcissist by Wendy Beharry. Quote from this book is, narcissists use manipulation and control to maintain their self-image. Ever wonder if you're in a narcissist relationship? This is one way I have developed to answer that same question. I call it the wagon train. Narcissists will constantly move those closest to them in constant movement. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, the chaos. Their life is in perpetual mess, struggle, or always arrogantly perfect. You know, you got it better. How are you doing? Oh, better than I deserve. That deflection statement. Those are terms that they use to perpetuate momentum. But when it's game time, okay, the narcissist will circle the wagons to assemble the tribe. This is their Hollywood moment. Don't get me wrong. This will be beautiful. Oh my goodness, the tears, the wailing, the locking themselves in the bathroom for 2 days, the stories, the grandiose comes out. Again, Hollywood moment. And this is where we get our stage performance. And they beg you to ask them how they're doing and they beg you to ask them how they're doing and to draw you into the story. They want you all in on the drama. These moments are where good people, I think, get sucked in. Genuine people, this is where they get sucked in. Remember, no one can live in constant chaos, can they? It's impossible. And that's precisely why the narcissist needs you. I mean, when we're selfish, we need other people to perpetuate it. Even if you're not a narcissist, all of us have that component, right? They use their circle of friends to carry the load of the constant chaos so they can keep all the plates spinning in the background. And that really leads us to their inner circle. It's probably the most dangerous part of a narcissist is their inner circle of friends, their inner circle. Man, it's like being in the center of a storm. If you've had a relationship, been around a narcissist, the closer you get, the more wicked the storm gets. And it's not only the most dangerous place for us, but it's also the most chaotic. It is definitely the most exhausting. This inner circle is where the narcissist will go all in to make themselves look good. And they will buy, do, and say anything to get anyone into this inner circle. And what can happen in this inner circle, this is where it can be dangerous, is really for 3 reasons. First, you can get trained here to become an enabler. Second, you can lose your core values. And thirdly, on the worst end of the scale, you can end up sacrificing the essential things in your life for them. So let's dissect some of those 3 things, right? So we're going to start with the enabler. Depending on how many resources the narcissist has, they can woo you into the role of perpetual enabler. And they don't care if it is perpetual. They don't care if it is forever. As long as they can afford it, they're going to do it. It is drug addiction territory, honestly. And that is what they want. They will give you whatever they can. Words, embraces, stuff, anything they can. They will literally give you anything they can to keep themselves as the center of attention. The danger here is losing your voice and your reality. The first thing they want to buy is your reality. That's number 1 on their list. They want to take your voice second. The center of a narcissist's life is about both putting you down and enticing you to come back. They are empowered every time they are empowered every time you let them tempt you back into their life after they tear you down. So you have this very tumultuous cycle at the center of a narcissist's life. So they desperately need you there. They've put you there. They almost bribed you in some ways to get there. But once you're there, you can't be equal. And so in the center, there will always be a pushing out and then a drawing back in. And in that process, remember I said there's an ethical side of this. In that process, losing your voice, losing your value is in constantly coming back. And that's what they want. As big as the push out is, you got it. The grandiose, the pull back in will be. And it's really important. I think of all the time putting into this and researching this, there's a lot of life story in here for me personally that I hope this stuff really helps somebody else miss out on a lot of pain from these types of relationships. And so we get into this next one, the ethical side. It's really a big deal, because in that pulling in and that pulling out at the center of a narcissist's life can really be the darkest part of the storm. And this is where Dr. Drew, I don't know if you know him. I heard him on the radio when I was young in the 80s, Dr. Drew show. I forgot what it's called. He's a leading psychiatrist, has done a lot of work on narcissism and drug addiction. And one of the most powerful things I heard him say as an insight really is that you will always find severe childhood trauma that creates the level of self-hate it takes to create a narcissist. So they're not born, like I mentioned earlier. They're trained, they're raised that way. And so what happens is in that push and that pull, remember at the beginning I said that the really nice people, kind people, it is kind to help people, get pulled into this cycle, really wanting to help, genuinely wanting to help, doing a nice thing, doing a kind thing. But at the center of the storm, you have this trauma that, because it's not healed, because it hasn't developed, it requires a perpetual drama. And it will move from one thing to the next, one thing to the next. So while, yes, we are studying the narcissist to understand that perpetualness, to learn how to stay on the outside of that drama and then help and support and love on them and be there for them, but then hold a boundary so that we don't get sucked into this part. And so at the center of that, if you get closer, the closer you get, you will see varying levels at different degrees of all of these following things. At the center, where that hurt is, where that trauma is at, where the void is being filled, you will see all of these at different levels. You'll see a meanness to them in the push out and the push in. You'll see gossip. You will see violence. You'll see trash talk. You can see substance abuse, pornography, physical abuse. These things are self-serving, perpetual things, because that's what they're working on the inside. It's really, you'll see an external component of the narcissist the closer you get. Sexual abuse, tantrums, cutting, fits of self-importance. Remember, that ego is constantly filling that void. It can be anything, but it's really focused on filling that internal void and punishing themselves simultaneously. The danger here is getting sucked into this lifestyle. So taking our own imprint of self-hate, like applying that to ourselves, taking on those narratives, taking on those behavioral patterns. So if I'm around that person and I don't have a guard up and I don't understand what's going on, I can imprint those bad behaviors, right? So if I imprint addiction, we'll just pick on addiction because it's easy. Everybody understands it. If I imprint addiction, well, what does addiction do? It causes shame. It causes us to hide stuff in our lives. Then that creates a level of insecurity. I'm not authentic. And look how I can start to build in my own life this momentum following that narcissist. Really a big deal. So that's why we study it. That's why we're self-examining to look at these things. And we don't want the addictive lifestyle. We don't want those components to become something that we're involved in. That's what I said. There's an ethical side. All of the gossip, all of the trash talk, all of those things chip away at a genuineness of somebody trying to help. And it keeps that going. And then you're feeding off that drama yourself. And that's how you become a perpetual enabler. So if you or somebody you know gets caught up in the cycle, they can have a really hard time seeing the reality of it. And this is when I said that the narcissist, the first thing they want is your reality. This is what I was talking about just briefly, but hopefully you can see that's powerful stuff. You start changing mindsets. You start changing inner vocabulary, inner dialogues. You start interacting with those things. And suddenly you do lose an idea, a concept of reality. You just don't see it as a self-inflicting danger. And that's the danger of, I think, getting sucked in and becoming that enabler. And if somebody has an enabler tendencies already, for whatever reason, even if it's kind, even if they're good-hearted, they find that narcissist and boom, they've set that in motion. So that's the end of segment 2. Segment 3, setting boundaries. And I think this is probably the most hurtful part of everything we're going to talk about, and can be by the most damaging. Book reference for section 3 on setting boundaries is Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and John Townsend. Quote from this book that I love is, boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships. Well, that goes everywhere with a narcissist or somebody that has these tendencies. The selfishness of a narcissist, it can be quite difficult. Have you ever been so overwhelmed by another person's chaos that at some point you thought, this is wild? This is crazy. I couldn't put crazy in there because spell check said crazy sounded too wild, or crazy sounded too mean, but it is crazy. You do look in the mirror and go, holy cow, what is going on? What is going on? And this is when good people, I think, start to separate from enablers. I really do. I think because people that are genuinely trying to help and have healthy relationships, healthy boundaries, they start to go, this is wild. If you can think of a relationship you have with somebody that just is perpetual wild, this is for you. And we call it I call it this. Okay, so now we're ready for the Jamesism. Okay, that's the clinical stuff, right? But now the Jamesism, I call it the merry-go-round. And this is what I call entering the merry-go-round, and it's all in the exit. The boundaries with a narcissist are not staying in a relationship with a narcissist typically. Typically, it is removing yourself from a narcissist's life and then having boundaries that you are in life kind of beside them, around them, but not always super close. So leaving a narcissist is like letting go of a merry-go-round spinning at full speed. And often this is when we realize the ride isn't ever really going to stop. And I'm going to be the one playing. Oh my goodness, I wrote that badly. Leaving a narcissist is like letting go of a merry-go-round spinning at full speed. And often this is when we realize this ride isn't ever really going to stop. And I am going to be the one paying the total penalty for this. So when the 80s kids understand what I'm talking about, there's no exit from a merry-go-round that is going full tilt without some cuts, bruises, and scrapes, right? And so you have this perpetual motion that now you are having to exit. Well, the narcissist isn't going to slow down, right? That selfishness of the human that is getting all of that momentum going, that drama going. And again, this isn't always extreme. You see this in a lot of little like micro type situations and micro relationships as well. It's still the same thing. The person pulling you aside and spinning spinning up this narrative of gossip is the exact same thing. Somebody, oh, did you hear about so-and-so? Did you hear about so-and-so? Those things are building a momentum and narrative that is parallel to this narcissist lifestyle. It just might not be a lifestyle for them, but it's still the same things. And so we approach these things the same way. So the pain point is when we decide to leave a narcissist, it can be very painful for a couple of reasons. Remember, I said the narcissist uses drama to bring good people to their defense. Well, when you give your best to a person, there's a value you feel in that act, right? There's a value we give to helping people. Helping people is kind, and we should value kindness. Unfortunately, when we leave the narcissist, we realize two things. No amount of help will ever make a difference because they're committed to that lifestyle, and we can feel used from that. And the second thing we recognize is the effort was never fully reciprocated, and this can be devastating. We can feel duped, we can feel dumb, we can feel violated, definitely going to feel hurt. Realizing the esteem they required you to hold for them, they never held it for you. Remember, I mentioned earlier on the darkness at the center of the narcissist's life. The closer you are, the more painful this process is going to be. They're going to retaliate. All the gossip you heard when you were with them that you thought was putting you on the inner circle, that put you on the A list, having their back, all that trash talk, yep, you are going to be on that list too. And this really leads to me a couple of my most significant points in this entire time together. When you finally decide to separate from a narcissist, don't do these two things. A, don't retaliate. Let them say what they're going to say. And B, don't defend yourself. Let them say what they're going to say. Doing either for you or me or somebody that's healthy or trying to get healthy is a good thing. I get why you want to do that, why I want to do that too, because I've been there. I want to do that. I'm like, whoa, none of that's true. Doing either is like running back to the merry-go-round and trying to jump in head first. That narcissist will see you coming from a mile away, and you're committing to going back to the drama one more time. And to the narcissist, regardless of how you feel about it, defending your honor, I get all of that. Been there, done that. I totally get it. I get all the hurt. I get all the lies. I get all of it. But I had to come to a place, and I hope you can too through this, where the narcissist sees you, not how you see you. The narcissist sees you as still controllable and punishable. Remember, that meanness, that violent side of a narcissist is about punishing you. If you get equal to a narcissist, they will punish you. They will make sure that you do not stay equal. They cannot have it. They cannot support it. They do not have the ability emotionally to be in a relationship that is equal with them, and they can't handle thinking about somebody that is equal to them. So when you come back, oh, you're not going back to the center circle, are you? No. So you're going to be what? You're going to be punished. So please, hope you can learn from my mistakes there. I hope you can learn from those things, avoid those things. And I want to kind of offer a suggestion there where we keep committed to just staying out. Okay? So merry-go-round's going, and in your mind, just think this. Leave that crazy train and go play on the swings. Just go play on the swings. Just put your hands up and walk away and say, I'm going to go play on the swings. I'll talk to you guys later. There's nothing a narcissist that hates more than boundaries. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, I have seen everything. Okay? Let me give you an example. This isn't a true statement. This isn't a true thing. But let's say I love to play guitar and I have a whole bunch of guitar picks and I have a narcissist relationship and I say, I hate orange guitar picks. I do not want orange guitar picks. The narcissist that I would be in a relationship with, when I would go to work, would literally take all my guitar picks, would throw them away, right? Would go to the Dollar General, buy all orange guitar picks, and bring them home and put in my guitar case. So when I got home and I went to play guitar, all I had was orange picks. And I'd be like, I hate orange picks. I said I didn't want any more orange picks. The narcissist would then push that boundary backwards, right? Because it's a boundary. They can't handle the boundary. Even as a guitar picks, what are you talking about? It's nuts. Somebody on the outside of the relationship would say, you're insane. That is not what's happening. It's just being nice to you. No. It's a pushing on the boundary, the reality of a boundary. And then the narcissist in the relationship would be like, well, they were on sale and I saw these guitar picks. And I know how often you go through guitar picks because when I do laundry, I find them everywhere. I know you've lost like 100 of them in your acoustic guitar. So I got you all these guitar picks. I know you just needed some. And I love it when you play. And can you play some songs for me? Do you see how that twist works? It's a boundary. There's nothing a narcissist hates more than boundaries. And it doesn't matter what it is. And they will wage total and complete war against that boundary. I have seen crazy stuff. I have lived through crazy stuff. And you have too if you've been in a real situation with a real narcissist. They can't handle the boundary because they can't handle the value you have for that boundary. They need that value turned back on them. And this really is when it gets crazy. I mean, like, hold on. It's going to get crazy when you put a boundary up. So that merry-go-round example, when we go to get off the merry-go-round with a narcissist, that is creating a boundary. And so you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared for this pushing back on the boundary. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist and you're somebody that's selfish like this, you're going to expect any boundaries you set up are going to be catastrophic to this person. Not to you. You're just trying to be healthy, but they are catastrophic for them because it's a no. And anywhere you put a no in your life, it's like they just can't have it. They have to own that too. So that moves us into segment 4, strategy for dealing with narcissists. Book reference. This is some good stuff in here. And seriously, if you're dealing with real life, deep narcissistic relationships, abuse, I mean, that is very much a part of being with a narcissist is abuse, neglect. I didn't put that in the notes. Definitely neglect is there. I need to add that before I put it on the website. Obviously, seek professional help first. If you're just exploring this going, hey, I got this friend and she's always cray cray and dragging you down, sucking your energy, all those things, then the books are a good idea. So, book reference, Stop Walking on Eggshells, Paul Mason and Randy Krieger. And the quote from that book that I picked out for us is, learning to assertively respond to narcissistic behavior can be empowering. So, we want to explore effective strategies for dealing with narcissists, including, now this is it's a word, it's an acronym. It's called Dear Man, DEARMAN technique. You can look it up. It'll be in the notes on the website. If you want to get on the website, you can. TheBeliefHero.team. You can make an account. All of the notes for all of the Be Bold hours are there. You can get them. They're free. The Dear Man technique is this: describe, express, assert, reinforce, be mindful, and appear confident. And it is just an acronym for dealing with emotional conflict. It is really effective in working with narcissists. So if you're in a deep relationship, a relationship you can't separate from with a narcissist, that is a great place to start, along with counseling and other things that are super important. The next one is probably the most common one for most people that just have to interact with narcissists at work and around at different places, is called the gray rock method, and is becoming emotionally uninteresting to the narcissist. Now, I will tell you from experience, this one can still really be painful. When you tell a narcissist, and they're a narcissist, or this person is super selfish, they always put themselves first. We just picked on the word today, but it's easier to say narcissist than to say all those things in commas. When you make your life sound uninteresting, and they never really ask you about your life in any depth or meaning, it's pretty painful. I'm not going to lie. Be prepared for that. And remember the 2 rules. Don't retaliate. Don't justify. Don't get sucked back in. Don't go stick your head in the merry-go-round. Just remember, be boring, and then go get on the swings. One of my favorite lines from the book, James Clear, on Atomic Habits. And it was at the end of the book. I was really surprised it was in there. It was like this extra credit section. I'm driving, and I can tell you where I was at in the middle of Wyoming when I read it, or I was listening to it in the pickup. To get rid of a narcissist, he said, just become as boring as possible. They will leave you alone because there's nothing in it for them. There's no talking point. There's no drama to stir up. There's no momentum for them, and you're not challenging to them. The moment you're interesting, you're a challenge to them because they have to be the center of attention. Discuss the importance of speaking therapy, counseling. We've done that. It's important to seek therapy and counseling if you're dealing with a particularly challenging narcissistic relationship. Do not stay in that abuse cycle alone. This whole time together was not about clinically diagnosing narcissists, but really looking at their behavior patterns, again, as a way for us to be around people, be working with people, dealing with people, but still being able to have a joyful life, which means interacting, being around, loving on, and caring for others. And so hope this time today was super helpful. I hope the whole show was helpful. Remember, storytellers, watch for the storytellers, the grandiose storytellers. Remember, look for the people that always have the circling drama. How are you doing today? And there's the inhale, and it's all the stories. Look for the people that can't give you details to their problems. They just need you. I just need you to support me right now. Those types of moments, those types of phrases are about perpetual drama, not resolution. And to have a joyful life, to have those things, we need to build a personal internal dialogue that seeks resolution. I think one of the greatest things we have on earth is the ability to have resolution, right? Resolution ends things. When we have resolution, we can say it's finished. We can say those things that the human body, the human mind really, really responds well to. And I think all of us are called to resolution. And so looking at the narcissist, looking at their behavior and patterns is a way for us to look at, hey, selfishness kind of builds this direction. And I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to be around that. I don't want to pay the penalty for that. I don't want to have those kinds of relationships. I want to have long, enduring, good, loving relationships. So I'm going to avoid those bad behaviors. So helps us stay out of gossip, helps us stay out of all the other things that go along with that. So seek support, accountability. Another great thing to do is journal. If you're going to break free of a narcissist control, you must journal. Find that reality again. Write things down. Remember things. I don't care if you keep a notebook in your pocket. I don't care what it takes. Take notes on your phone. but as much as possible, journal and keep other people around who can process conversations for you. So again, last segment 5, maintaining emotional well-being, The Gift of Fear by Gavin Becker. Great book on that. Intuition is a powerful tool for self-protection. That is my quote from that book today. Self-care strategies. Self-care strategies. I was trying to stay the game. Strategories instead of strategies. Self-care strategies. Get accountability for boundaries. Prioritize self-care. Build a support network. And trust your intuition and recognize some of the red flags that we've talked about in our time together. So thanks for listening. I got a Q&A. If anybody's online, I'll answer any questions if we have them. Examine a narcissist, learn from the behavior, examine our own, and build healthy lifestyles, build healthy relationships. That is what we're trying to do at The Belief Hero, is look at the patterns, look at the behavior, look at the things that really don't get us where we want to go. Remember, a lot of things we talked about over the last few weeks are all about what's got us here isn't going to get us there. Identifying with that goal and leaving bad behavior behind, picking up good behavior, and taking that where we want to go. So with that, appreciate your time, and we are done. Be Bold Hour, examining the narcissist, is at a completion. Thank you guys very much for listening. If you're watching this later, if you catch it later, put some comments in the chat and I will get back to you. As always, thanks for supporting us. We super appreciate your support. More than anything, if you know somebody that needs to hear some of the stuff we talked about in this episode on narcissism, how to keep themselves safe, how to build tools and techniques from some of this stuff to find the reality again, get out of abusive cycles, get out of abusive relationships, get healthy in their life, any of those things, please share this episode with them. It is so important to me that these things make it to them. That is more important than likes or anything else to me, is sharing it with somebody that needs it. Super important stuff. One healthy relationships, one healthy people. Want the joy for everyone that comes from those things. And so that is a big deal to me. Coming up, housekeeping. Book club is starting mid-October of 2023. Discord is open. Pretty excited. Go to the website, thebeliefhero.team. Make an account. In there are all of the show notes. They are free from all of the Be Bold Hours. Notes from the podcast, The Hero Hour, will also be in there when that launches in the next week. So exciting stuff all on the website. Great place to keep it all in one spot. Long form. I think today's episode was like 6 or 7 pages. So good information, book references, all of that stuff. Do your own research. Educate yourself, and have good relationships. That's a big deal.